Don't do it.
From diesel or gas pacers to rocket-powered racers, Nomads, Go-Mads, RVs, schoolies, they'll turn it, tweak it, tune it, fix it so smoothly. That's why he's Badge. Everybody needs one.
Oh, it's on? Oh. Is it on now? Okay, I better talk then, right? Okay, welcome back, sports fans. This is the one you've been waiting for. This is the year end of us staying in the winter. Now, there's a couple things you got to clear up. One is that when we first got into this, me and Al, back in 15, we had all this stuff, and then we decided we were going south, so we sold all the tarps and everything. So that was a cost there that we didn't expect. We did not expect the border to close. That changed everything. Drastically changed everything, and that's why you'll see why it changed a lot. Now, right from the onslaught, I'm going to tell you right now, do not even attempt this unless you know what you're doing. Now, remember, I've been at this for 30 years, so I know what I'm doing, but do not even attempt it, because you can do some serious damage and you can hurt yourself. No, this isn't a 3-season trailer. This is lucky to get 2.5 out of it. This trailer is good to 15 degrees. Maximum. That's maximum. That's the maximum, which is, minus 10 Celsius? Any more than that, you're pushing it. I wouldn't even dream of it. Like driving down the road and camping in it in that temperature, I wouldn't do it. But the only reason we did it here is because we were stationary, which changes it a ton. It totally changes it a ton. And like I said, the manufacturers have nothing to do with this. Forest River, they will never in a million years agree with me that you should live in it. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the only reason we're living in this trailer is because that's what we can afford. So, we're going to do one of the good and the bad, but we're just going to run it together. So we'll start with the bad things. The bad things was, and you know it because you've seen the video, is the 50 below. Now, that was really tough. 50 below in that trailer is, well, that's like 50 degrees below what it's capable of doing. Like I said, 32 is a good temperature for this trailer. And so that's 50 degrees below that. So, yeah, that's tough. It was tough, and you've seen the video. That was probably the toughest part of it. Now, the other thing is, too, is that you got to remember every day you have to be on it. You got to go check the propane. Because you remember, we had 2 bottles of propane on the trailer. We had one on the wave underneath the back. We had one on a heater over on the right hand side, and one in the foyer, or the left hand side and one in the foyer. So we had 6 bottles of propane, or 5 bottles of propane you had to check every day. And no, they didn't have gauges on it, so you had to sort of guess by golly. So with that being said, now I don't want no comments on this, because for one thing, unless you've lived in the trailer 50 below in Canada through the winter, you have nothing to say about it, really. I'm sorry, you just don't. So unless you've done that in a Forest River summer trailer, don't even waste your time. The propane costs us just around the $2,000 mark, $2,200 basically. Now, the reason for that was, one, I am bullheaded, and everybody says, well, you can't run it off bottles. You can't do this. You can't. Well, of course, I'm going to try it, right? So I ran it all off 30-pound and 20-pound bottles just to prove a point. So that cost us a little more because we just bought it from Brad. That's all we did. It was just easy. We could go in, take a bottle, take one, take 2 bottles, take 3 bottles in. We didn't have to, and we could do it any time of the night because I had a key for the propane. So you could do it any time of night. So we had that option that we're never out of propane, which is the number one. That's one of the biggest things in the wintertime. Water you can live without and that, but you got to have heat. It's a major thing. You have to have heat. So on that note, the propane was quite expensive, but you got to remember it cost us like $3,500, $4,000 to drive to the south. So it sort of waves out. Did it cost us any more to stay here? I don't think so. It probably, in the long run, it probably would have been easier to drive to the States. It would have been a little cheaper because you wouldn't have had a lot of other costs. Now, you got to remember when we had the propane cost, which was $2,100, and then we had 10 tarps. Now, one I got for free, but the other 9 we had to buy. So that's what, $360 there. So, but no, now we're keeping the tarps. We're not getting rid of them. We're not, like I give the last ones away to the homeless people. These are we going to keep because you never know. We don't even know if the border's going to open up this year. We're hoping for it. So, but to cut it short, the biggest thing was the cold weather. And we were very well insulated, and we had 4 layers on, and we had lots of propane. And the wave, I don't care what anybody says about the wave is a friggin' godsend. That thing cut our propane in half. So I would have hated to know what the propane bill without the wave. And I know it makes moisture, but yada, yada, yada. We haven't got time to talk about that. I don't even want to talk about it. So that was the thing. We had the 2,200 pound. We had to buy the tarps. We had to buy the structure for $600. So it basically would have been probably a little cheaper to drive to the States, believe it or not. So that was it in a nutshell. And like I said, I would never recommend this to anybody unless you know what you're doing. Like, I've been at it for 30 years, like I said, and you have to know what you're doing. Like even Elle said, if I wasn't here, she would never have been able to do it. And it's just so much you got to look at, like the heat, the propane, the wire, the heat trace, and everything. Like one night I knocked the heat trace off by accident and froze the water line. That's the only water line we froze. Now, if everybody's been following the channel, you know the one by the door always freezes. It never froze this year at all. So we got a couple things going for us. But in the onslaught, it was pretty good. I wouldn't say it saved us from COVID because even when we're down in the States, we're not around anybody. We're out here, we're not around. The only ones here are Brad and Heather. And down in the States, we're just out in the desert by ourselves or with a group of maybe 4 or 5 people. That's it. So I don't know if that was a thing. But the other thing we didn't have to, everything works in sections. So like we only got X amount of dollars to deal with in a month. So we paid for propane, but then to offset the propane bill, we never had no gas bill on the truck because we never drove anywhere. And that was offset by the money for medical insurance that we got to buy the States because we didn't need it. So that was another. So really, it was affordable, really affordable for us to stay here. But when you juggle the balls around, it would have been cheaper to drive to the States. And the weather would have been nicer, but that's beside the point. On the onslaught, would I do it again? Yes, I would. Because if I had to, I would. If we have to stay the winter, we'll stay the winter. This is what we've made our mind up to live in, and this is what we're living in. This is what we can afford this. We can't afford a house. We can afford this. And that's about it. That's it in a nutshell. If you got any questions, put it down below. But it's basically just, this is what we can afford. It's not trying to save money in this. Not going to be golden rainbows with buckets of money on the other end. It's not like that. It's just, this is what we can afford. So that's why we're keeping it. And that's all I can tell you. If you got any questions, put them down below. But other than that, that's about all I got to say on it. And we survived. That's all I can say. And the trailer came out pretty unscathed, believe it or not. We have no damage at all on the trailer, which with the moisture in that is a big deal. And all the heaters are still working. And yeah, so I'll leave that with you. I know it's a little long video, but I told you it would be long when I said I would. So I'll leave that with you, and hopefully you get something out of it. And just remember, the most important thing is don't do it unless you have to do it. Don't do it.
Okay, you guys, I'm trying to have a shower. Maple, quit drinking the water. Badge, move over, will ya? I want to show my soap. Come on, get out of the way, you guys.
Badge. Everybody needs one. We love our badge. And just remember, he's not asking.